of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You are at Durian ASEAN Dailies, where we deliver news from Southeast Asia. And here we are on Wednesday morning, 6th of January 2016. Well, let's start with our breaking news, which is coming all the way from Singapore, that the nation reports that the highest number of dengue cases just happened in a week for 2015. So there were about 455 dengue cases reported last week, and 86 more than the week before. And this is according to the National Environment Agency. And when it comes to dengue, a lot of people are afraid of getting this viral infection from. And the National Environment Agency, or NEA, mentioned that a proportion of dengue cases due to this DENV2 serotype has increased in the Republic and now accounts for more than half all the dengue cases in Singapore. So there are certain types of dengue, which is called DENV 1 and 2 there. And when there is a prevalent serotype of dengue in the populations, the community will build up a herd immunity to this serotype. But when the main circulating dengue serotype changes, there will hence be less community immunity against the new serotype. And this NEA is urging members of public as well as stakeholders to take immediate action to stem the further increase in cases. According to them, they said, we are seeing this increase in the Aedes mosquito population, and they are also experiencing slightly warmer than the usual year-end weather due to the El Niño phenomenon. And also warmer conditions support faster breeding and maturation cycles for mosquitoes and a shortened incubation period for dengue virus. And these are artifacts. And also they also said the eradication of mosquito breeding habitats remains key to preventing mosquito breeding, and encourage stakeholders to play their part by checking their premises daily for these habitats and also removing them. So those are the preventions that we can do. But our question is it really possible to prevent dengue fever, or is there any dengue fever vaccine even? Because once you are down with dengue, it will take a few weeks to recover from it. And of course, the prevention of dengue fever requires the control or eradication, just like I have mentioned before, of these mosquitoes carrying this virus that causes dengue. In nations that were plagued by this dengue fever, people are urged to empty stagnant water from old tires, trash cans, and even flower pots. And the governmental initiatives to decrease mosquitoes will also definitely help to keep this disease in check, but have been poorly effective. So to prevent this mosquito bites, if it is possible, and if it is convenient, try to wear long pants and long sleeves, thin long sleeves. For personal protection, use mosquito repellent sprays that contain DEET when visiting places where dengue is quite endemic. And there are no specific risk factors for contracting this dengue fever, except living in or traveling to an area where mosquitoes and the virus are endemic. Limiting exposure to mosquitoes by avoiding the standing water and also staying indoors for 2 hours after sunrise and before sunset will help. And also, there is a type of mosquito called Aedes aegypti, which is spelled as AEDES and AEGYPTI. This type of mosquito is a daytime biter with the peak period of biting around sunrise and sunset. So it may bite at any time of the day. It is often hidden inside homes or even other dwellings, especially in the urban areas. So there is currently no particular and also specific vaccination available to prevent dengue fever, but there is a vaccine undergoing clinical trials, but it's too early to tell whether it is safe and it can really prevent and also be effective to prevent yourself from getting dengue fever. So just before we move on to the other news, there are also quite a number. Let's just pick 10 practical tips to be mosquito-free and prevent dengue, especially this season. So number 1 will be turn over empty pails and buckets so that they do not collect excess water. If the container that contains water cannot be emptied, remember to cover it well and not in use. Number 2, remember to clean out empty flower pots and not to over water potted plants. It is advised not to have any stagnant water around, as it acts as a breeding ground for the mosquitoes. Number 3, apply mosquito repellents on all exposed areas during the day as well as at night on a regular basis to prevent dengue. And number 4, make sure your window and door screens do not have any holes. If so, block those areas properly to eliminate mosquitoes. Number 5, if someone at home is ill with dengue, try not to let the mosquito bite them or others in the house. Number 6, always sleep under the mosquito net, especially small children, as they sleep during the day and hence the chance of mosquito bite is high during this time. Number 7, if you use a cooler, remember to empty out and also clean the water tray regularly, even when not in use. Number 8, always cover your trash can or dustbin when not in use. Number 9, a natural method to keep mosquitoes at bay is to plant tulsi near your window. The plant has properties that do not allow mosquitoes to breed. And lastly, number 10, using camphor as repellent also works wonders. Like camphor in a room and also close all the doors and windows. Leave it in this way for about 15 to 20 minutes to have a mosquito-free environment. So those are the 10 picked ways to prevent getting from dengue fever. So yes, the Singapore has reported quite a number of dengue cases there. Even in Malaysia, it is still going on. So be careful and always be cautious of what you wear and then carrying the repellent if possible. Moving on to the next news about this news is all the way here. Our Prime Minister Najib Razak, well, Malaysia and our leader faces U.S. corrupts inquiry. Well, this issue particularly has been going on for quite a long time, and this time the Prime Minister of Malaysia is facing mounting political turmoil and also parade of inquiries at home and abroad into this wealth fund that he oversees is now coming under the scrutiny of American investigators as well. So this inquiry being run by the unit of the Justice Department that investigates international corruption is focused on the properties in the United States that were purchased in the recent years by shell companies that belong to Prime Minister's staff as well as other real estate connected to close friends. And also, he said that the people are knowledgeable about this case. Of course, when it comes to this quite a controversial issue in Malaysia, it has been an ongoing problem. And of course, after this Justice Department has started the investigation on the corruption internationally, Malaysia could not be missed from their investigation process. And like I just shortly mentioned about the people being very knowledgeable about the case who asked for the anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss it. And so investigators are also looking at about a $681 million payment made to what is believed to be Mr. Najib's personal bank account. And at the same time, pressure in Malaysia on him, Prime Minister, intensified. It was just a few days ago, as two separate courts dealt him legal setbacks, and also at the head of country's central bank, which is investigating transactions involving the sovereign wealth fund, said it had submitted its findings to Malaysian Attorney General. So, after this particular issue was broke out, literally, a lot of people were very furious about this controversial issue, and still we are very curious, and we have a lot of questions towards this issue. And of course, we had our own ways to find out, and there are facts that we have been picking up and collecting so far. But going to this extent that now the U.S. has really started investigating on this corruption is a bit shameful to our country. So before it gets really draggy, and it really people will be tired of it already. Before that, it's really important and also significant that we hear the truth from the government and what has really happened, and there is a still chance that we can work on about it. Lastly, before we end our political news on Southeast Asia, let's talk about Indonesia. So Indonesia's foreign policy, there is a raising the game in 2016. So as a middle power with limited resources, Indonesia will need to figure out how to plunge into such an unsettling world, or what the scale of our ambition is, and also how we can best extract global resources that are in the national interest. So the question is, how can we raise their game in 2016? For a start, the President Joko Widodo administration should place less emphasis on differentiation from previous government, and also him himself should launch these new initiatives, but capitalize on the assets that are working. Secondly, the government should urgently set up a foreign policy unit within this presidential palace. There's the glaring absence of the go-to official in the state secretariat and in the cabinet secretary and in the president chief of staff office has been a source of this frustration to ambassadors and those diplomats in Jakarta that has caused some operation mishaps. Thirdly, the foreign ministry must assume the center stage in the foreign policy. The recent foreign assignments given to various ministers is not likely to improve our diplomacy. Indeed, it will make our diplomacy more confusing and messy, both to domestic stakeholders and also the foreign counterpart as well. Lastly, the fourth point is Indonesia, the nation, will need to focus on ASEAN beyond a routine attendance at summit and ministerial meetings, because even though ASEAN has still a long way to go, as a whole community, the all 10 nations really need to come together to work on and also be able to get a benefit from each other. And when there are faults, please do embrace each other as well. And when it comes to Indonesia, it has its own political agenda, political issues, so many other things that they need to worry about internally. However, the principle that it's been holding within the nation, which internally we really want to fix it first, then we can worry about the external issues. However, the ASEAN has already happened, and then Indonesia is also part of it. So showing some interest and also be cooperative towards the ASEAN community is no harm to the nation after all. So that's it for the political news of Southeast Asia at ASEAN Dailies from Durian ASEAN. Stay tuned for the next news on the economic side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello, welcome to Adriana ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You are listening to ASEAN Dailies, where we deliver news from Southeast Asia with Grace. On the ASEAN Dailies on economic news of Southeast Asia, where we just missed one political news from the previous segment. We're just gonna quickly discuss about it, which is about the chair once of a chaos in the May election, which is from the Ex-Comelec. So former commissioned on the elections, Chairman Sixo Brillantis Jr. warned of this chaos, even the suspension of the May national and the local elections, unless the Supreme Court act swiftly on the disqualification cases on two presidential candidates. So this Brillantis said the Supreme Court should decide on these pending cases because the official campaign period begins on February 9th this year for national candidates. If it doesn't happen, it will be very chaotic, and they're also looking at the scenario where there could be a suspension of elections, but no elections for sure. So these two Supreme Court justices are set to retire this year, and also said Justice Martin Villanrama Jr. cited his deteriorating health for his early retirement. The other one, Justice, is Arthur O'Brien. And earlier, this Comelec en banc junked the two motions for reconsideration filed by the Senator Grace Poe against this previous ruling of the first and second division cancelling her certificate of candidacy for president. At that time, this chairman Andres Bautista said the Poe's name will remain on the list of presidential candidates until their decisions become final and executory as well. So when it comes to this Filipino election, there are a lot of stories going on, and then whether it's gonna be postponed or will happen on the day they were supposed to happen, the Philippines really needs a right leader for the nation to be able to see the vision of the country, as well as to be able to bring the country for the better position, and also to make all the people happy, because Philippines has had a quite unpleasing government system for the last few years, and the people are really looking forward to having a better government as soon as possible. So that's the political side. Let's quickly move on to economic news, where our colleague Gowri just joined us at our ASEAN Dailies.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning.
All right, so let's do our economic news, which we can focus on the AEC. So according to this news, it says that ASEAN Economic Community will change the labor landscape. And there is also demand for skilled manual workers is bound to escalate steeply with this regional integration. But yet the vocational schools they are still struggling at this point.
I think a lot of countries at the moment, they sort of need to step up their game right now, especially since we're already in 2016 and the ASEAN Economic Community has somewhat realized, and if you look at the news, a lot of countries are pretty excited about the fact that it's the AEC year in ASEAN, and because of that, of course, we are looking at a free flow of labor all over 10 countries, but in order to achieve that, what they really need to focus on at the moment is the skilled labor, or especially the youth in the country, are they well equipped if they were to really participate and be able to mobilize around all the 10 countries? Do they really have the skills that they can deliver? Are they well equipped? Can they converse well? And do they have the necessary skills to make it happen?
Well, those are the questions that we can have when it comes to skilled workers, because those are the people that who will mainly contribute when it comes to ASEAN economic community. And also at the same time, what worries this whole the community is the shortage of skilled labor in Thailand, especially, is expected to intensify with the advent of the AEC. And meanwhile, Laos, Vietnam, as well as Myanmar, they face the same problem. So this shortage of skilled labor is another problem and also concern, and it is probably a big challenge when it comes to ASEAN economic community. When it comes to Vietnam, the country's booming construction industries long ago have outstripped its supply of vocational school graduate, like I shortly mentioned before about its struggle, and also development in Myanmar is constantly picking up the pace as well. And apart from this individual efforts, Laos, Vietnam, and Thailand are this year introducing joint vocational studies. So graduates will be assured of work in one or all of these three countries, which is a very good platform and a good step to move forward. But then it is also important to promote this certain vocational studies throughout the country, as well as to all the 10 nations, to be able to attract the students to further their studies.
Exactly. And also when the students or graduates are sent to another country, it's very important for them to learn how to adapt and to adjust, because of the amount of competition that they will be facing from so many different people. And it's not that easy. Just because you have a certain skill doesn't necessarily guarantee that you will actually make it when you go to a different country. Because like the article says here as well, you could be a hero in your own country, but to go beyond that, to still be the hero or the go-to person on a national or a regional level, that's completely different, and you need to really up your game. And I think especially here, looking at Thailand, looking at all the CLMV countries, they're trying really hard to also increase their edge, especially when it comes to all their young graduates, because these people are the future of ASEAN, and we all know that the youth play a very important part in the ASEAN integration. And I think if they could continue to focus on improving the graduates, their proficiency, their skills, and how well they can adapt and adjust, then they're probably on the right track towards the ASEAN integration.
For sure. So all the best to AAC, which has concluded, and then we are looking forward to see the result for sure from all the 10 nations. Let's move on to the next news, which is about the Asian Development Bank that approves $300 million to China anti-pollution loan on this week to help to clean the Beijing's notoriously polluted air, as a pledge to support Chinese government effort to reduce this coal use in and also around the capital. Of course, this loan aims to reduce the usage of coal in Hebei province, which contributes to much of the pollution that routinely blights both Beijing and also nearby port city of Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei as well. Well, when it comes to usage of coal, with the population that China holds, this can be really a major problem, and having this loan should help to reduce this pollution problem in China.
Right, and also like you mentioned about the Hebei province, it seems like 7 out of China's 10 most polluted cities are actually located in the Hebei province, and they are the ones who consume more coal than all other, but except for one province. And this ADB loan will support policies aimed at reducing annual coal consumption in Hebei by more than 12 million tons. So that's the amount of coal that they are looking at reducing. And I think China, the sad part about China is for the most part of 2015, they have actually been breathing just dirty, polluted air. And there was even one news that surfaced where they were buying bottles of air from Canada. It was just bottle filled with nothing, filled with air. That was the extent that it got. It got really, really worse. And when it comes to coal, of course, it is a challenge for a big country like China, for any country at all, because it's such an important fossil fuel for us. But then again, if we are not efficient in the use of it, this is what it could lead to. And at the end of the day, the whole country has to suffer because they did not come up with a sustainable method of consuming their resources.
I can agree with that, because just a few weeks ago when we received news in China, the rate of air pollution was very, very bad, that until we really couldn't see any buildings. It was even worse than the haze problem we had in Malaysia and also other countries, surrounding countries. So when it comes to this problem, the financial assistance package is the first policy loan which was made by the ADB in China, and the government has traditionally been reluctant to involve this overseas lending agency in policy decisions on critical issues such as this environment. But they cannot just simply ignore this problem anymore, because not only the complaints from the public, but it will affect the government itself as well economically, because at the end of it, well, as much as ADB wants to create something for the country or for the nation or even the around the surrounding countries, if the government doesn't approve, there's no moving forward the step.
And we know that China is a big powerhouse, and they don't usually rely on an outside source to come in and solve their problems, especially financial wise. And I think even in this case, they have been quite reluctant at first whether or not they want to accept the loan from ADB. But the fact is that the situation is so bad in the country, it leaves them with no choice. And I think what we can take away from this is to always try to prevent. I mean, we talk so much about environment, and it's always being brushed off as something that is not really that important, but it does catch up with us in the long run, as we can see clearly as what happened in China. And I think even any country, as even like Malaysia, we have a lot of cars in the road, everyone emitting gases, poisonous gases from factories. If we don't find an efficient way to do it or try to use more public transport, we could also end up just like China and probably have to borrow a ton of money to solve the problem.
Yes, so before that, we better be aware of what's going on when it comes to environment, and if not, that will eventually affect our own economy. So that's it for our news on the economic side of Southeast Asia, but stay tuned for the next segment, which we'll be discussing on the art and culture side. So stay tuned.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Drian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Grace at ASEAN Dailies.
And you're with Gowri, also joining you today.
So this segment will be discussing on the art and culture part of ASEAN, Southeast Asia. So I have a question to all of you, including Gowri. Well, when it comes to Jews, do you think people still have their own like stereotyping or perception when it comes to that particular?
Actually, based on a few movies I watched, and also I think a couple of episodes in The Big Bang Theory, they still do have the stereotypes, but then of course that is mainly for humor purposes. But there are still stereotypes that exist about the fact that they don't consume pork, and they have a certain surname that
they do.
Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, so little things like that.
Well, and also they are very well known for being super duper smart in whichever area they are in. Well, there is this news about this last Jew to leave Penang, and we are talking about Malaysia here. So this former Malaysian Jew retraces his childhood footsteps in Georgetown.
Yeah.
So it's at Penang is you're very familiar with Penang, of course. You are from Penang. So how do you feel when you heard about this news?
I think it's very interesting. I mean, the Jews have a very, very long history.
Yeah.
And looking at the Malaysian Jewish community itself, they have been in Malaysia pretty much since the 19th century, when what they call the Baghdadi Jews set foot on the shores to explore trade opportunities here. I mean, when we talk about trade opportunities, we always focus on the Muslim traders,
Right.
the kings from Chinese who came over. But this is the little lesser known story where we also had Jews coming in to look for trading opportunities with the country at that point. And the first Jew actually to come here to make Malaysia his home goes by the name Ezekiel Aaron Manasseh back in 1895. And he claimed to be the only practicing Jew in Malaya for 3 decades of Jewish settlers in Penang up until 1941, which showed that they already have a few hundred Jews living in Penang at that time.
It's very interesting because when you talk about Jews and they're living in Malaysia or maybe perhaps the surrounding countries, those will be the one who managed to escape from the European countries. That a certain era, when I look at this era, the period, it was between 1881 to 1941. So those are the era that they were really suffered a lot. And then we know what we are talking about. So this World War II, this drove the significant number of Jews to Singapore, and a majority chose to build a new homes there, as well as in Australia, Israel, and also the United States. And Malaysia is also no exception here.
Yeah.
And even though it's not so much of a surprising fact, but what surprised me by reading this news, it was we had our last Jew in Penang, all the way in Penang.
Exactly. They actually managed to track down this one guy who goes by the name Jacob, where he happens to be one of the very few left. And it's very interesting if you look at his background. He was actually raised by an Indian family, and he speaks very fluent Tamil. And I guess you cannot escape that when you're in Malaysia. You're just bound to speak 2 or 3 languages growing up. He's one of the last few who still have the Jewish heritage in him, and I think that is something that is very interesting for Penang in general.
So it sort of suits the Penang vibe though, because Penang is really well known for having this artsy when it comes to culture. So having this last Jew, but it's too sad that he's gonna leave the state and to preserve this the race and also even the ethnic culture and certain area is really important. But it sort of saddens us to read that it was he was the last Jew to leave this state in Malaysia. Well, moving on to other news is about Thailand. Well, holiday season is just over, and to read about this article that Topless in Thailand, there were 2 Western female, they were fined because they were topless.
Exactly. They were actually walking around naked on the top, and the police arrested and later also fined these women who one is from US and one is from Austria. And the 48-second video that they took has gone viral since its posting on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, they were charged with public nudity, and both paid about 500 baht before they were released following a stern warning from the local police.
Yep, and well, it's their own freedom. There's no problem with that, in my personal opinion. But they also need to have their own respect towards the country they're visiting.
So. I mean, I wouldn't justify this action. I agree with you. It's completely naked. Sorry,
Topless,
up to you how you want to present yourself.
Right.
But I think when you're in another country, especially when you're visiting the country, especially countries in the East, especially in Asia, we have a lot of superstitions,
yes, we do.
traditions, and whatnot. And sometimes I think maybe they just need to think twice before bringing in some somewhat radical ideas. Or even
Yes.
being topless can be very extreme for us. You know, even walking around in a bathing suit, you still get people who don't understand the idea of a bikini. If you look at certain countries, certain generation, so especially what happened in Malaysia as well, how they blame the tourists for the earthquake.
Yeah.
Because that was unjustified. But then again, we would think that that incident would have taught tourists to be more
Correct.
sensitive to the local cultures, but it seems like that's not really happening.
Yep. And at the same time, when you think about Westerners, they are not always really, free thinkers, and they're very open-minded. And some are very conservative as well. And that's why when you go to like European countries such as France, there are like places only you can just open yourself and just go nude. Not all the places.
Right.
And these Westerners, just because they are on a holiday mood and they go around and then this place and that place, doesn't mean that they can be topless or even be naked and walk around that
That's true.
places, because they will definitely catch attention from certain group of people.
Yep.
And then these people will just not just stand there and watch them. They will do something about it. For example, taking videos and uploading on Facebook and then make them viral. It's at the end of it, it's also shameful for these two people.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, everything goes viral these days so easily, and I think something like this is not really a surprise. And of course, and this is not the first or second time. I think there's been countless other examples as well when this guy got arrested in Myanmar, I think, when he wore a pants with the picture of a Buddha. Because it was on the lower part of the body, and it was also kind of disrespectful. So yeah, little things that, you know, people might think this is okay, no one's gonna care, but it might be a big deal in the country that you're
Exactly.
visiting.
I think all those countries which are very famous for their own tourism really need to have their signboard
Everywhere.
rather than, I mean, apart from having this drug trafficking problems, they also need to raise this awareness when it comes to nudity, or even building up the respect towards the country is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's it for our news at ASEAN Dailies. Look for us to our social media channels at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Of course, and also don't forget to download our very own Thailand ASEAN app, or you can also listen to us on TuneIn Radio every morning, and we start at 9 o'clock now.
Yes.
This year.
So I'll hope to speak to you guys tomorrow again. So see you.